Champions Cup Final for 2020-2021, all French affair, and it's Toulouse who get that elusive fifth star on the jersey, taking out the game 22 points to 17, two tries in the game, had a couple of cards, including a red card for La Rochelle. We'll go over some of the events of the game, some of my thoughts, some of the stats, and you guys can let me know your thoughts on the game and how it went as well. Firstly, I will say it was great to see a crowd there. Adds just so much more atmosphere to the game, especially at the end when they're doing the celebrations. Do you remember Exeter when they won it? It was just so bizarre seeing the guys celebrate, jump up and down, and there's just nobody there. I know there was only like 10,000 people, but it felt like a lot more. And seemingly a lot of French fans in the crowd as well, which was great to see. So really good atmosphere. Started off a little bit rainy, but the sun did come out for the kind of latter stages of the game. I think about halfway through the first half. Both sides traded penalties early, 3-0 to Toulouse, then 3-all. Unfortunately for Toulouse, Richie Arnold went off with a really early injury, so Takori had to come on. He got injured in the maul, and he got patched up, but it didn't take long before he was actually substituted, so that was pretty unfortunate. And then it did get a bit better for Toulouse because they won a penalty. Well, La Rochelle conceded one at the maul, so Intermac made it 6-3, so back in front for them. La Rochelle won scrum penalties, though, and the scrum for La Rochelle, initially anyway, was seeming like a massive weapon for them, that big pack of theirs. But that penalty went off the post, and points off the post in this game is one that the La Rochelle fans will look back not too fondly, man. There was a few points left out there. There was a moment after the ball hits the post where the Toulouse guys, I think it's Dupont, carries it back over the line, so it's a 5-meter scrum. It's another penalty for La Rochelle at scrum time. They scrum again. The ball they get out of the scrum is really unclean. Like Bottier is having to catch it above his right shoulder, which was pretty disappointing because he wasn't able to get any go-forward ball. So he gets tackled and knocks the ball on, but there's a back for a penalty at the scrum. And eventually the ref just tells the front rowers, because the scrums have been a bit messy, get the scrums working. It's interesting because sometimes the refs lecture the front rowers about what they're doing, and he didn't give any specifics. Luke Pearce, just get them working, because he was getting pretty frustrated. From that resulting scrum, Bottier knocked it on, and Toulouse had a scrum. They were able to get the ball out and exit. So a huge period of pressure where La Rochelle come away with no points, and Toulouse, despite being under the pump, manage a successful exit. So that was kind of a big period of play. Interestingly though, like the next time they got a penalty, La Rochelle, from a maul, they switched back to opting for 3. That was it. They weren't going for those touch ones or scrums anymore. That strategy was done for the day. So 6 points apiece. Now on 27 minutes, Bottier gets yellow carded for tackling a player within 10 meters of a quick tap. But it's after a huge tackle that he puts in on Medard. And initially you're thinking, oh man, has he yellow carded him for that tackle? Because usually that's one that gets referred. But he says it's for the offside thing. But then the TMO gets in his ear and says, you need to look at this. And sure enough, man, it's a high shot on Medard. There's nothing good about it. It's a red all day long. And sure enough, it's a red card. It's a big pity for La Rochelle. It's a big pity for a final. Nobody wants to see a final where there's a red card, especially when, unlike the Super Rugby laws and Rainbow Cup laws at the moment, where they get to replace them after 20 minutes, that's it for the entire game. Although the game is competitive despite the red card. But yeah, Medard has to go off for an HIA. I'm thinking this is surely going to shift the momentum because La Rochelle have been the dominant of the two sides. But interestingly, Elstad gets a yellow card not long later for a bit of a cynical play with La Rochelle going through a heap of phases. His hand just kind of scoops the ball out, and yeah, a bit cynical, disrupting the play when they were hot on attack. So yeah, they kick the penalty, do La Rochelle, so they actually go in front for the first time, 9 points to 6. 36 minutes, Dulin takes a player out in the air, so it's a pretty soft penalty. Intermac kicks a long range one to make it 9 points apiece. So the 14 versus 14 scoreline is 3 points apiece. But then Toulouse conceded a penalty at the breakdown. So it goes into halftime 12 points to 9 with La Rochelle in front. So they've had the red card, but with Elstad's yellow card, for the majority of that time, it's been 14 on 14. That is halftime. Second half, Aldrit gets a massive hit on him by Peter Aki. And you can hear like a blood-curdling grunt scream as he gets smacked. It's not something you often hear unless it's something really bad on the microphone. But he keeps playing. They TMO checks that tackle from Aki as well. It's similar to the one that gets red carded, but it's just low enough that the ref says there's no direct contact. But there was a breakdown penalty that they went back for. But with that one, West edged the post as well. So he's hit the post twice now, and the yellow card is over, so it's back to 15-14. 44 minutes, I feel like Colby gets his first touch, and it's almost a try. Malvaka gets an offload, and Malvaka's pretty much got one eye at this point because he's copped a hit in the face at some point, and his eye, like a boxer, has just kind of closed up. How he was able to play with one eye is a bit of a miracle in itself. He offloads to Dupont, gets a line break, chips over the top for Colby, and he looks to go over in the corner, but Dumaru tackles him into touch. Absolute try saver. Still no tries in the game. 46 minutes, La Rochelle get offside from a clearing kick, which is a pretty soft one. Again, if you're going to concede penalties like that in a final, you're asking for all kinds of trouble, so it's 12 points to 12. 48 minutes, La Rochelle knock it on over the goal line. Bulgarit goes tantalizingly close. He's just reaching out to put the ball down after a huge period of pressure, but the ball just spills from his hand. So it's another missed opportunity. But to be fair, in that one, Toulouse were also guilty of not exiting. They were trying to carry the ball out of their own 22, or at least set up a couple of phases, but they had knocked it on. So, yeah, both sides maybe lacking a little bit in their kind of clinical edge, which got them to this final. 51 minutes later, has to go off for an HIA. He's put in a great tackle on LaBelle. Fortunately for him, he comes back on. 54 minutes, Toulouse go through 12 phases. They get held up. It goes back for an offside. The TMO checks that there's not been a try. I think it was Rory Arnold, but there's not conclusive. The TMO did take a very long time to have a look, but they said no conclusive evidence. One of those ones where the ref says on-field no try, so it goes no try. If it's on-field try, it probably stays as a try. But on-field decision was no try. It doesn't matter, though, because Malia gets a try a few minutes later, 59 minutes into space, man. I think the Intermac pass cuts out about two La Rochelle defenders out on the right. And I guess the thing is Tolofua who puts it back inside to Malia. And it's a well-worked try. So 12 points to 19 at that point. There's a stretcher for one of the La Rochelle players, which is unfortunate. Boudeon had to go off. And it's starting to look like maybe the La Rochelle guys are getting a bit tired. They've had that extra man pressure to deal with for this whole game, essentially, or at least for the whole of the second half. Their guys just looking a little bit slower, but on 68 minutes, they concede another soft breakdown penalty, and Intermac kicks it. It only just sneaks inside the posts, to be fair. But that's a two-score lead, and with a two-score lead, extra man, you're thinking surely last 10 minutes, it's going to be Toulouse all day long. 71 minutes, La Rochelle got a penalty. Dulin kicks for touch, and it's a great one, man. He nails it exactly 5 meters out. It's one of the best touch finders you'll ever see. Great moment in a final. They have a huge maul. They get the backs in there. Raymond Rule's getting in there, but it can't quite get over. Eventually, Tauro Kobalo has a little snipe to the left. There's no pillar there, and he dots the ball down. West's kick brutally hits the post again for a third time. So it's a 5-point game rather than a 3-1 to draw, which is pretty unfortunate. La Rochelle have a massive period of play. Eventually West puts a little grubber kick through, but they can't regather at La Rochelle. So Toulouse look like they're going to wind the clock down, but they stop play for an injured Toulouse player. So they have a scrum. One last crack at it for La Rochelle. They've got a scrum to try and get the ball back. They can't get it back, but there's still a few seconds for Toulouse to run the clock down. They spin the ball out to Intermac, who just has to kick it out, but then he realizes, oh goodness me, there's at least 10 seconds left on the clock. So he gets pounced on by the La Rochelle defenders. Somehow they manage to go through one more phase, get the ball to Dupont, kicks it out, and the game is over. 22 points to 17. It was very tense at the finish, which is what a final should be. I would say it's a proper final. Like, I don't know what commentary you guys had. I had Austin Healy, who is just a bit of a miserable human being, man. He complains about everything. He knows all the right decisions that the players are not making. yeah, he knows best, and the players don't do what he thinks they should do. So they're obviously rubbish. But man, it's a final. Like yesterday, I watched the Reds and the Crusaders, the Australian and New Zealand champions, go at it, and it was 63-28. That was 13 tries. Like, if you want to watch that game, you can go watch that game. But the game was over by like 20 minutes. Like, this game went down to the wire. It wasn't always that pretty, but sometimes it's not just about scoring like amazing tries. Believe it or not, 68 points and 13 tries can get a bit dull. Because there's just no tension. This was edge of your seat. There was brutal tackles. Some of the missed opportunities, have you on the edge of your seat as much as Richie Mo'unga stepping 5 defenders to go and score a try. I mean, the Dumaru tackle on Colby was phenomenal. So, yeah. Possession finishes 51-49 in favour of Toulouse. Territory 55-45 in favour of La Rochelle. So a bit of an even split. Run meters 229-298 with Toulouse winning that one. Clean break 6-2 to Toulouse. Defenders beaten 25-12 to Toulouse. They should have those better numbers because remember they had an extra man for quite some time. Turnovers conceded those 16-10 to Toulouse. So Toulouse under pressure at times, a bit guilty of not being able to retain the ball. I mean, their wingers, LeBel and Colby, are phenomenal guys, and they hardly saw any action in this game, really. Penalties conceded 10-9, with La Rochelle conceding one more. But honestly, La Rochelle, 1 conversion and 2 penalties missed. That's 8 points. In a game like this, that's pretty brutal. Ihia West, I've been singing his praises prior to this competition. The goal kicking was just a few inches off, man. Unfortunate for him. For La Rochelle, Sezi has 11 from 11 tackles. Proper captains knock that one. Aldrit, 43 run meters from 17 carries. He was everywhere. He was distraught at the loss of this game. Dupont, who gets player of the year, he has 71 run meters and 2 clean breaks, which is much more than any of the outside backs got. Kloss has man of the match, 43 run meters, a clean break, 15 out of 16 tackles. A good shift from him. But yeah, that's the game, man. Congratulations to Toulouse. It was a proper final. They had to work for it. They had the extra man. Good on Malia for getting a try in his first ever European Champions Cup start. I know he got a minute off the bench in the semi-final, but a big effort from him in what was going to be a tough game. La Rochelle honestly could have won it on another day. Some of the passing, like I mentioned, the passing above Botia's shoulder, if he hits the ball at full pace, if they kick those goals, if Bougeret doesn't knock that ball on over the line, it could be a totally different outcome, but that's how a final should be, man. 2 of the best teams, and it's a very close one. So, yeah, La Rochelle, I'm sure, will be back, and Toulouse, 5th star on the jersey for next season. Congratulations. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts on the game. How did you think it went? And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.